Hello, everyone. Tashina Gonzalez here with Vivectiva, your favorite holistic wellness coach and self-development coach. And today I am talking about something that has to do with emotional wellness. I didn't do my Feel Good Friday. I just went live while I was on vacation a little bit. And so coming back from vacation, and honestly, a couple of things that even happened during the week, as usual, a lot of times I'm sharing with you guys really stuff that I just need reminders on in my life. And therefore, you guys just come along for the ride to see if there's one or two people that can benefit from it. And so today I am going to be talking about coexisting with toxic people, because that's what I had to deal with some during the week and then this weekend as well. So this one is going to be on emotional wellness. So as usual, as you hop on here, give me a wave, a hi, a hello. Let me know what city and state that you are watching me from. And if you're watching the replay, no matter what venue, if it's YouTube, Instagram, or later on Facebook, hashtag replay. But I found an amazing article, and in this article, it gives lots of good tips of how to coexist with toxic people. So for anyone that's really close to me, they know I was out of town with family this weekend, and they know that I have a toxic person in my life. And so I'm going to help share with you guys some of the things that, again, as a review for me, I probably should have had this article before, but some of the things I tried to do in order to coexist well in this situation. So, in this article, coexisting with toxic people means going around them to set your own rules and accepting that you don't need them to respect those rules to claim your power. And here are some practical ways to do it. So, number one, be empowered by your motives. Sometimes toxic people will trap you like a hunted thing. You know, you don't have to give in to them, but you also know that there will be consequences if you don't. The secret is to make your decision from a position of power rather than feeling controlled. In the same way, there's something they want from you. There will always be something that you want from them, even if it is to avoid more of their toxicity. Decide that you're doing what you're doing to control them and their behavior, not because you're a victim of their manipulation. Personal power is everything to do with what you believe and nothing to do with what they think. So for me personally, I went out of town with one of the individuals that's toxic, but it was my decision, right? Because I wanted to also spend times with my nieces, be there to help them and be there to protect them. So coming from that place rather than feel like I was forced or being trapped to do it gives me a sense of power. The next one is understand why they're seeing what they see in you. Toxic people will always see in others what they don't want to acknowledge about themselves. It's called projection. You could be the kindest, most generous, hardest working person on the planet, and toxic people will turn themselves inside out trying to convince you that you're a liar, unfair, nasty, or a slacker. See it for what it is. You know the truth, even if they never will. So this is interesting. Of course, this happens in the situation that I was this weekend. But in addition to that, I actually had some random stranger that friended me on LinkedIn, which happens all the time. And when people friend me on LinkedIn, I respond to them. I say, thank you so much for your friend request. And because I'm a holistic wellness coach and I do all types of teaching, I offer them a free resource. Now, lots of people ignore the message. Probably 2 out of 10 people thank me for it. And a lot of people will actually view the free resource. So I actually had somebody come at me with insults and attacking me, stating that I was spamming them for thanking them for friending me and offering them a free resource. And then he proceeded to tell me, it was like 5 paragraphs that he sent me. He proceeded to tell me how he was a business coach and how he could help me better my business. So I tried to respond to him, explaining to him why his approach was repulsive to me and made me want to never do business with him. And he continued to attack me. So after the second time he attacked me, I realized what he was doing was projection. Someone must have said something to him on his approach in the past, and he felt attacked, so he felt the need to project that onto me. So I ended up just deleting his message and not responding to the next message. Today, he messaged me again, and he's trying to sell me on his business as a business coach. And he asked me, did I review the information? Because I think by now he sent me like 7 videos, none of which I watched and none of which I paid attention to. And he sent me a message and said, hey, did you read the information that I sent you and what did you think? And so I've just now unfriended him because I don't need that toxicity in my life of someone that is projecting their own issues onto me. So the next thing that we can do in order to coexist with, so that's a situation where you just cut them off. If they're a toxic stranger, just cut them off. But going back to things that we can do when we're coexisting with toxic people, like family members, they might get worse before they leave you alone. So think of it like this. Take a little human who is throwing a tantrum. When you stand strong and don't give in, they'll go harder for a while. We all have a tendency to do that when something we're doing stops working. We'll do it more before we stop. Toxic people are no different. If they found a way to control and manipulate you and it stops working, they'll do more of whatever used to work before they back off and find themselves another target. Don't take their escalation as a stop sign. Take it as a sign that what you're doing is teaching them that their old behavior won't work anymore. Keep going and give them time to be convinced that you're not going around on that decision you've made to shut them down. And this happened definitely over the weekend. Like, there was a complete escalation on Sunday that was a little bit ridiculous. And that's what I had to do. I had to just keep calm and talk in a normal voice and say, I suggest that you say a prayer and try to calm down right now. But we're not going to accept this toxic behavior. The next point is be clear about your boundaries. You can't please everyone, but toxic people will have you believing that you can't please anyone. So you try harder, work harder, compromise more. It's exhausting. Toxic people will have your boundary torn down and buried before you even realize you had one there. By knowing exactly what you'll tolerate and what you want and why, you can decide how far you're willing to let someone encroach on your boundaries before it's just not worth it anymore. Be ready to listen to that voice inside of you that lets you know when something isn't right. It's powerful and rarely wrong, if ever. Whether someone else thinks it's right or wrong doesn't matter. What matters is whether it's right or wrong for you. Let that guide your response when you can and who's in and who's out. Next point is you don't have to help them through every crisis. The reason that toxic people are often in crisis is because they are masterful at creating them. It's what they do. Draw a breath and create drama. You'll be called on at any sign of crisis for sympathy, attention, and support, but you don't have to run to their side. Teach them that you won't be a part of their pity party by being unemotional, inattentive, and indifferent to crisis. Don't ask questions and don't offer help. It might feel bad because it's not your normal way, but remember that you're not dealing with a normal person. You don't need to explain is the next point. No is a complete sentence and one of the most powerful words in any language. You don't need to explain, justify, or make excuses. No is the guardian at your front gate that makes sure that contamination from toxic people doesn't get through to you. Don't judge. Be understanding, compassionate, kind, and respectful, but be all of them to yourself first. You can reject behavior, requests, and people without turning yourself into someone you wouldn't like to be with. Strength and compassion can exist beautifully together at the edge of your boundaries. It will be always easier to feel okay about putting up a boundary if you haven't hurt someone else in the process. I think this can be part of the more difficult part of coexisting with toxic people, because when someone is literally attacking you and calling you names and screaming and yelling and literally having a tantrum and acting like a 5-year-old, it incites some anger in you and it makes you want to react. But thankfully, I do feel like I did a great job at making sure that I oiled up tons and doing deep breathing and not responding in kind to kind and explaining what I would not put up with in a way that was understanding, with a right tone, compassionate, kind, and respectful. Own your strengths and your weaknesses. We are all a messy, beautiful, brilliant work in progress. Once you are aware of your flaws, nobody can use them against you. Toxic people will work hard to play up your flaws and play down your strengths. It's how they get their power. If you're able to own your strengths and weaknesses, what they think won't matter, because you'll know that your strengths are more than enough to make your flaws not matter, or at the very least to make them yesterday's news. So this is something that, as a self-development coach, I try to teach people a lot. People know that I use a lot of personality profiles when I'm working on empowerment and self-development with other people. And it's something that I'm proud that I spent a lot of time working on myself. Recently, within the last 3 months, people have just said about me, they love how I'm so unapologetically myself. And it's not always been that way, especially in middle school or in my late teens. I tried to be a perfectionist. I tried to be something that I was not. And it feels so much better, and people can attack you. You don't feel like a fraud or faking it when you know that you constantly walk in your strengths and you accept your weaknesses. Obviously, again, we all have to be Christian. We all have to be kind. We don't make excuses when it comes to our personality ever, but just knowing what your weaknesses are and knowing that God accepts you in your imperfection, and knowing that you are strengthening your strengths and that it makes up for your weaknesses is a great feeling and a beautiful thing, and one that I'm proud that I've worked on and that I try to help other people to work on too. So don't expect change is the next one. You can't reason with toxic people. You just can't. That's one of the things that makes them toxic. Decide where you stand and then stand strong. You don't need to do any more than that. They will try to make you bend, flex, and break at the seams. Because you have an open heart, the thought that someone might misunderstand you, disapprove of you, or dislike you might get to you. But remember that you're not dealing with someone who is motivated by what's good for you or your relationship. It's always about them, and it always will be. Decide that sometimes you're going to make it about you. It's what you deserve. Number 10, choose your battles wisely. Dealing with toxic people takes an enormous amount of energy. You don't have to step up to every battle you're called to. For many toxic people, conflict is the only way that they can connect. It's the way that they feel alive, noticed, and important. Save your energy for the people who matter. Definitely had to do that this weekend. There's plenty of biting, cutting, sarcastic, negative things that was said that was ignored. But then when it was like of a high escalation level is when I needed to say something in a kind and compassionate way. The next point is don't be a victim. People can be a pity sometimes, but you're not one of those. Decide that you won't be anyone's victim. Instead, be the one with the boundaries, the strength, the smarts, and the power to make decisions that will help you thrive. Even if their decisions you'd rather not be making, own that it's a move that you've made to get what you want rather than to bend to someone else's rules. You're amazing. You're strong. You're powerful, which is why you're nobody's victim. Nobody's. Focus on the solution rather than the problem. Toxic people will have you bending over backwards and tied with a barbed wire ribbon to keep you there. What will keep you stuck is playing over and over in your head the vastness of their screwed up behavior. It will keep you angry, sad, and disempowered. If you have to make a decision that you'd rather not make, focus on the mess that it's cleaning up, not the person who is making your life horrible. Don't focus on their negative behavior. There's just way too much to focus on, and it will never make sense to you anyways. And so I am a person that needs catharsis, and I need to talk things out, and I did talk things out with a couple of my friends today, and now I'm just like, okay, what's done is done. It's over. We're fine. We're moving on. And that's the way you need to be. Just focus on the solution going forward. And that's part of why I'm doing this live, to remind myself, how am I the solution? How do I make sure in the future that it's always, I'm doing as much as I can to coexist with a toxic person in the healthiest way that I can in the future? This is part of my solution. Next point, surround yourself with people who will give as much as you do. You might not have as much freedom in certain parts of your life to decide who's in and who's out. In this case, I'm talking about a toxic, severely toxic family member. But when it comes to the ones you open your heart to, you absolutely have the choice. Choose wisely and don't be afraid to let them know what they mean to you. And again, I definitely appreciate the couple of friends. One last night, and who responded to one of my Facebook messages, and the couple that I've been able to chat with today. Greatly appreciate those people. Forgiveness is about, the next one is forgive, but don't forget. Forgiveness is about letting go of expecting things to be different. You'll never be able to control the past, but you can control how much power it has to impact your future. Forgiveness doesn't mean accepting the behavior or approving of it. It means that you're not going to be controlled by it anymore. It's something done in strength and with an abundance of self-love. Don't forget the way people treat you, for better or worse, and use that to help you live with clarity and resolve. So we're not obviously, if you're a Christian, you forgive everyone always, right? And you give other people additional chances. That's biblical. But you're not going to forget the positions that they put you in and put yourself back in that position for you to be severely abused, whether emotionally or in any other way. You're going to remember that portion of it so that you can create a boundary so that you can coexist with that toxic person. Next point is understand the cycle. There's a pattern many toxic people follow. First, they're charming. This is when they'll get you. They'll be attentive, loving, and impressive. But all of it will be to get you into a position. Next, when they have your trust, you'll start to see the cracks. There will be mounting demands and a rising pull on your emotional resources. Then there will be the crisis, the test. You'll feel stuck. Whether or not you give them what they want, you'll feel compromised. Finally, you'll do what they want because you don't want to be unreasonable or cause more drama. And then they're back to charming you and giving you just enough of what you need to make you stay. The problem is that this never lasts for long and always comes at a cost. Be aware of the cycle and use it to build your boundaries on an even more solid foundation. If you can't get out of the relationship, know that you're not staying because you've allowed yourself to be fooled or blindsided, but because you have your eyes on something bigger that you need. So again, the toxic person that wanted to be friends with me on LinkedIn, that I could see that the cycle was going through just in the messages. And so it's like, yeah, you're a toxic person. I don't need you in my life, so I can cut you off. But again, in the case of family members that we have to deal with, just recognize the patterns of those cycles. Make sure you're not repeating them in your life, and just make sure you have the emotional strength to get through those cycles. And lastly, you don't need their approval. You really don't. Don't look for their approval or their appreciation. You won't get it unless it comes with conditions, all of which will dampen you. You'll constantly feel drained because they're draw on your open heart, your emotional generosity, your reasonableness, your compassion, your humanity, and they will give absolutely nothing back. Give what you need to, but don't give any more than that in the hope of getting something back. There will never be any more than minimal, and even that will come with conditions. Whatever you do, know why you're doing it, what you're doing, and make sure the reasons are good enough. And then lastly, make sure that you have a plan for recovery. There were a couple of just really super good quotes that came across that I want to share with you to end with. So one is by Misa Selimovic, and it says, everyone says love hurts, but that is not true. Loneliness hurts, rejection hurts, losing someone hurts, envy hurts. Everyone gets these things confused with love. But in reality, love is the only thing in this world that covers up all the pain and makes someone feel wonderful again. Love is the only thing in the world that does not hurt. And then another quote that's from Thich Nhat Hanh. I don't know if that's how you say their name, but when another person makes you suffer, it is because he suffers deeply within himself and his suffering is spilling over. He does not need punishment. He needs help. So those were a couple things that I was meditating on yesterday as I tried my best. We're all imperfect. We all have stuff to work on, but that's never an excuse to spew emotional abuse on someone, to behave in a toxic manner. And it's not an excuse for us to accept a toxic manner. Everyone's imperfect and they're not going to love us in a way that's perfect. But love doesn't hurt. That's not the way that it works. And so hopefully if you're currently have to deal and coexist with toxic people, you got some tips from that. The last thing I would say is make sure that you have some plan for emotional recovery. I know for me, I felt exhausted after this. August through the first week of September is always very difficult for me anyways and emotionally exhausting. And so this was just even more. And so I needed to sleep in. I needed to chill today. I always, do my affirmations, and I listen to my spiritual music, and I do some spiritual reading in the morning and reset my mind. And so I did all that. And of course, I needed like extra essential oils. And some of the ones that really, really helped me, one of which acceptance, right? We accept that these people are not going to change. And vision, just not focusing on that past, not focusing on all that negativity, but having vision for their future. White Angelica, we talked about this in one of our classes. If you haven't seen that class that we did on dealing with difficult emotions, I will definitely put it in the comments of YouTube and Facebook for you to watch. People love the class, got tons of information from it. So if you haven't seen it, make sure you see it on our YouTube channel. But White Angelica is one that you just put in your hands and you rub it all over your body. Helps with just emotional balance. And then lastly, trauma life, because that's what I was dealing with over the weekend. But that is what I want to share with you guys. Sorry, it's a little bit long today. I went 20 minutes. I'm usually like 10, 15 minutes. But this was an important topic. Again, you guys, this is something I needed to review, remind myself of, put more into practice, make sure that I'm doing this to make sure I can be healthy, coexist in a healthy way with the toxic people in my life. And if you're just hopping on, don't forget #replay. Let me know what city and state that you are viewing me from. And if you know anyone that could benefit from this information, please tag them below or share the video with them. With that, I'm going to close this out and thank you guys so much. I greatly appreciate you. Bye.